Hello, everyone, and welcome back. A content warning, I'm about to mention childhood trauma, but nothing specific, nothing graphic. Just like a lot of people, unfortunately, I experienced some childhood trauma. Things that happened to me when I was young that were bad. And, as I got older, I realized, well into adulthood, that I hadn't addressed a lot of these things. And I was very privileged and lucky to have access to good therapy, and it's been extremely helpful. But one of the things I learned that I already suspected, but it became very clear throughout my therapy over these years, is that things that happened deep in my childhood affect me now, today. Even stuff that I don't necessarily remember, so I was in therapy dealing with things I do remember. And a psychiatrist once pointed out to me, the stuff you don't remember, some stuff my mom told me about, for instance, he's like, that stuff also affects you, even today. And I believed him, but it was sort of mind-blowing to get one's head around the fact that, say, something that happened to me when I was 4 years old that I don't even remember could have effects on me and my life and my decisions and my choices and my mental health today at 51 years old. So it was hard to get my head around, but it's true. What happens to us deep in our memories, things that we consciously forget, because we can't remember everything, your brain would... even things that we forget have effects on us and our subconscious and our psychology well into adulthood. My psychiatrist said if I broke my arm when I was 4, which I didn't, but this is an analogy. Remember those? He said, if you broke your arm when you were 4, and now at your age, you came in and got an x-ray of your arm, we would see the scar from the break. We'd see the healed bone. Because that scar doesn't go away. Even though I don't remember breaking my arm, the effect on my body is still there. By way of analogy, he said that things that affected me when I was young that I don't remember, that didn't leave bodily scars, but left psychological scars, those things last all throughout your life. They have to be dealt with. What is the point? What does that do with humanities? Well, the subconscious is a big part of our life. What I mean by subconscious, stuff that we've stored away. So, there's a great book I could recommend called Subliminal by Leonard Mlodinow, and in that book, he talks about how much the subconscious influences your everyday life. It's a very fascinating, interesting book that'll really blow your mind if you read it. In fact, it's not just trauma that gets buried in our subconscious, but everything we learn about the world, about everything. We're not born with all this knowledge about gravity. A baby will walk right off of something. They don't have a sense of gravity. They've never experienced it. They haven't learned. You learned about gravity at some point. So did I. We don't remember learning about that probably. There are lots of things that we learned about the world, good, bad, and neutral, that we learned at some time. It's something worth considering because it all influences your everyday life, even if it's stuff you don't remember learning. You learned things about the world from people and from experiences when you were young, and those things are part of who you are now. This is how a person who is a good person otherwise can have racist and sexist beliefs and actions. Those words racism and sexism are unfortunate in one sense because it implies an evil person. I must be racist and sexist. But the thing is, it's not that simple. Good people can have in them deeply buried assumptions and viewpoints that they don't remember learning, that they learned by watching or being told, however they learned them. And so those things can come out of you even when you don't intend to be that way. It's just a fact about human existence, that we learn things we don't remember learning, and they do come up at times. So the practical aspect of this class, just to remind you, which I will a lot, is to call forth some of those things from the deep memory of our subconscious. This can be fun, actually. It's also good for self-checking. I say it can be fun, meaning that it's interesting, that kind of fun, intellectually fun, to go, what is this I'm thinking? Where did it come from? And sort of like having these things pop out of your brain that you didn't understand or realize that you were thinking or just assuming to be true. And you could be like, does this thing that popped in my brain line up with the way I want to live as a person? Why am I not? And if not, What can I do about it to address the gap between what I think and feel and assume about other people, the world, etc.? What can I do to bridge the gap between that and the way I'm behaving, or how my thoughts are affecting my actions? Now, I want us to watch a clip real quick from the show Futurama, Season 1, Episode 8. Futurama is a show that is what we call satire, which we're going to talk more about later in the semester. So just watch this clip and then we'll talk about it.
New York City, the year 2000, the most wasteful society in the history of the galaxy. And it was running out of places to bury its never-ending output of garbage. The landfills were full. New Jersey was full. And so, under cover of darkness, the city put its garbage out to sea on the world's largest barge. The repulsive barge circled the oceans for 50 years, but no country would accept it. Not even that really filthy one. You know the one I mean.
Okay. Now notice the part where the guy says, the repulsive barge circled the earth for 50 years and no country would take it. Not even that really filthy country. You know the one I mean. Now, quick, what country did you think of? They didn't have a country in mind when they wrote it. They left it blank to sort of poke at your own bias and prejudice. Because whatever country floated to the top of your brain when you thought, that filthy country, you know the one I mean, whatever popped up in your head, if anything, can reveal to you a bias or an assumption or a prejudice that you have. Now, here's where the practical part comes in. So you're analyzing art by watching Futurama. It's just a goofy cartoon, right? And yet, they make this comment, this line on there that's designed to mess with your brain and to sort of make, remember those bubbles from All That You Love Be Carried Away, that bloop, bloop, what bubbled up there? They're trying to make something bubble up. Now, they're just comedians and humorists, so that's where they leave it. But see, we go further. We say, what bubbled up there? Now, what can I do about that? Like you go, oh, I just thought of a country, and I thought of it as filthy, and I had this negative thought about them. I don't want to be like that. I want to be more open-minded and view people as people. So now what you can do is look into that country a little more. Maybe do some research on what's really going on in that country. What's it really like to live there? Maybe befriend someone. Maybe someone in your dorm or down the street is from that place and you avoided them. You didn't realize you were, but now that you realize you had that negative thought about that culture, maybe you realize you're avoiding them. Well, instead of feeling terrible about yourself, what you could do is roll up the old sleeves and get to work and go, since I don't want to feel that, what can I do to counteract it? It's easy to think about clumps of people, to think things about groups and clumps of people and can feel completely justified. But getting to know an individual, an individual with good and bad and ugly things about them and pretty things about them, this teaches us what we all really know in our hearts, which is human is human. And all other distinctions are superficial and can lead to dangerous and dehumanizing behaviors, even if we don't set out to be evil. So that's one of the things I'm talking about, a really simple cartoon example of how you could do the practical thing. You analyze the art, you watch it, you take it in, you think more beyond the surface, whatever bubbles up there, anything you don't like about yourself that you thought of, that came up, now you can find ways to address that. And that's, of course, the hard part anytime in life when we're trying to be better people, is figuring out how to do that. But at least you can set about the task when you realize these things you have that were built into you somehow, some way.